Tonight's speaker has been a trooper with the Virginia State Police for over 40 years and is considered one of the most experienced public safety divers in the world, with over 2,000 search and recovery rescue missions. He literally wrote the manual on how to conduct a crime scene investigation underwater, as well as the premier book on the basics of public safety diving. He has been recognized by the FBI, the Secret Service, NCIS, and countless other law enforcement agencies at home and abroad, and has been awarded the Virginia State Police Superintendent's highest honor, the Award of Merit, for his dive leadership and service. We're honored to have him return to the Sea Devils tonight, so please join me in welcoming back Mike Berry.
All right. Well, how's everybody doing?
Great.
Thank you for having me. I've never spoke at a dive club like this before. I got this thing gawking at me, people staring at me from behind. Very interesting. And so I came here once before, not to this place, but another place you had. So I've met some of you guys before, and I always look at these opportunities as just that, an opportunity to come and kind of share some cool stuff with you. And so what I thought I would do is talk about my team. And so, believe it or not, I'm still around. I'm been out there for a long time, and I'm the coordinator for the Virginia State Police Search and Recovery Team. And a lot of people don't even know we have something like that, but we have this pretty cool team. They're very active. We do all kinds of cool stuff. And so before we begin, I wanted you to just kind of know who's up here. It's this old guy that's been around for a long time. And so I was sitting here, you know, I ate one fry before he calls me up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And one of the ladies says, oh, you look nicer than that picture that I go. I said, what picture were you looking at? Oh, you're real mean. And it was that one on the magazine cover. And so she pulls it up. This one, I went, oh, yeah, I do look mean in that one. And so I told her the story is that this magazine calls me up and says, hey, we're going to do this article. And I said, okay. And so they asked me a million questions. And then about a month later, they called me up and they said, hey, we need to get a picture of you. And I said, all right, I'll send you some pictures. Oh, no, we're going to fly in a photographer. And I went, what? I said, I'll just send you some pictures. No, we're flying in this photographer. I go, what? You don't have to do that. I got some pictures. And they go, no, we're going to do it. And I still didn't get it. And so I just said, okay, fly in a photographer. And so that shot was in Petersburg underneath this bridge. And so I get dressed. So already people have said, God, you wear a lot of stuff. And I go, yeah, you know, I got a lot of stuff. And so I'm in the water, and, you know, this photographer and his crew show up with spotlights. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, all this to get a picture of me. And so they start taking pictures. So I'm sitting there, you know, like a male model, you know, I'm smiling and, you know, and I'm just like, how many pictures are you going to take of me? Because he took like 5,000. And I said, and he goes, I just got to keep doing it until I get the shot. And I said, well, I'm not going to smile. I'm going to give you my normal look. And so I went underwater and I came up and I gave him that look. And I hear him go, oh my God, that's the shot. He starts taking pictures. And I start laughing. I go, well, that's how I normally look if I'm not smiling. If I relax my muscles, I look like I'm mad at the world. I said, but I'm not mad at the world, but everybody thinks I am. And he goes, I got the shot. And I go, you took like 10,000 shots. He goes, no, I'm talking about the cover. And I went, the cover of what? He goes, of the magazine. I said, is that why you're here? He goes, well, we're competing. All these photographers were competing with their people to put them on the cover. And then about a month later, I got a call from the editor and they said, "You made the cover." And but this is how dumb I am. I went, what magazine are you? I had no idea. And he said, "Scuba Magazine." I said, is that big? And he goes, "Yeah." And I went, "Okay, that's cool." And so I made the cover. So hopefully I'm nicer than that picture. And so here's just some old shots. So I used to have brown curly hair. I used to be a stud muffin, and now I'm just a muffin. And so you know, my kids, when they were small, you know, I showed them that picture there with the yellow horse collar. They went, "Who's that?" I went, "That's me." "That ain't you." I go, "Yeah, it is." "No, you got like curly brown hair." And I go, "Your dad used to have curly brown hair." You know, and I used to have a lot of it. It just kind of disappeared. You know, it must have been all that bad water that I was diving in. And so I've been around for a while. So right now it's about 42 years. And so this is the first picture taken of me in a uniform. You know, look at that. And then look at that. I don't think I look that much different. Except for you're smiling in a second. Except all those things. They represent 5 years of service. So there's a lot of them there. And I've just always looked at it as an honor. I was a diver, but when I joined the state police, I had no idea they had a dive team. And so I was a diver. I was right out of the military. I was a diver. I joined the state police. I was riding around with this trooper, the way the good Lord kind of lined us up. He was the state police diver. And just one day out of nowhere, he goes, "Remember that commercial, Mikey?" That was my nickname. I mean, any Mike had to be Mikey. And so, you know, here's this big brute going, "Mikey." I go, "What? Do you dive?" I go, "Like scuba dive?" He goes, "Yeah." "Do you do that?" I go, "Yeah, I do that." He goes, "You really do that at your age?" I was like 22. I went, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to go diving?" I said, "Like a quarry or wreck diving or something?" He goes, "No, for guns." I go, "Guns? What are you going for guns for?" He goes, "I'm on the state police dive team." And I about fell out of my chair. I went, "What? What's a dive team?" He goes, "We go look for bodies and cars and guns." I said, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You gonna let me go?" He goes, "You got your gear?" I go, "I got my own gear. I don't have tanks." He said, "You go get your gear and meet us at this pond in Stafford." So I went to Stafford County, 2 real state police divers, 2 deputy divers. And they introduced me to this search pattern called a jack stay. And they said, you know, we're going to move on this grid line. You're going to talk by squeezing each other's hands. You're just going to feel the bottom. If you find something, squeeze this many times and tell that state diver that you got it. Well, out of all the divers, I was the only one that found a handgun. And let me tell you what, when my hand hit that handgun, I squeezed his hand underwater and I put his hand on the gun. And underwater, here's this real state police diver patting me on the back. You know, I'm like, I am just besides myself. We come up and he let out a yell, and all these divers were going, "Where'd I go, Mikey?" I said, "Why is everybody gonna call me Mikey all the time?" And so I sat down. Someone took a picture of me. I sat on the edge. I swam over to the edge of this pond. And I was taking off my fins, and I honestly had this God moment. Because I always wanted to be a scuba diver, and I always wanted to be a police officer, but I never knew you could combine. That never computed. And here I am taking off the fin. I just found this gun. Everybody's patting me on the back, and it was like God just hit me with the lightning bolt. And I went, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. And I had this moment where I knew what I was supposed to do. And that altered my career, because I can't go any higher in rank. I can't, you know, if you're serious about that decision, you got to kind of stick with it. And I did. And I've always, absolutely always loved it. I mean, imagine getting paid, you got a job and you're getting paid to do something you absolutely love. That's me. And people go, why haven't you retired? And I go, well, I do what I want every day. And I'm having fun every single day. Why would I stop? Why? That doesn't make any sense. You know, what am I going to do? You know, I'm every day. Tomorrow, I'm tomorrow. This is real. Tomorrow, I'm looking for a murder weapon. How cool is that? You know, Thursday was free. So the guy says, hey, can you help us out? I go, yeah, Thursday I'm free. I'll do that on Thursday. You know, Friday, I'll be looking for something else. You know, if you like that kind of stuff, you might not like that. But if you like doing that kind of stuff, it's pretty cool. So we've got this big team. So here's a shot of my team. I'm the guy that's sitting in the middle on a truck. You get all these, I call them boneheads, don't tell them that. We've got 4 dive trucks. Every truck has a Rescue 1 boat. You know, we have inflatables. We have all kinds of stuff. We have 2 of these thingies, big Munsons. The department calls it the Berry fleet. I do have a fleet. That's just a pose. Some of these guys have already moved on to, higher ranks and stuff like that. But I'm still there. That's how I look every day when I go to work. I wear blues like that. I do wear Class A's like once every 10 years. And so when people see me in Class A's, which is the trooper uniform, everybody runs to take pictures of me, because they haven't seen me in those for years and years. And so this is what I'm going to talk about. I want to focus on my team and kind of give you an insight of some of the crazy stuff we do. Because we do diving. That's the biggest mission. That's our biggest mission. So we do more diving in Virginia than all the other teams combined. So that's a lot of teams. But how do we do that many dives? We cover 98 counties. We're the state police. We're not, Spotsylvania County. We're not Stafford County. We're the state police. And we go all over the state and we go to other states. So we're doing it a lot. And so all these crimes going around the state, we're getting called all the time. And so we do quite a bit of it. And so, but we do these other missions that a lot of people don't know. So we do swiftwater rescue. And so what you're looking at is 2 state troopers that are swiftwater rescue technicians on top of a vehicle in this raging river, but they're not trying to save someone because someone already passed away and he's still in the car. We're trying to recover the car with him in it. Because if in that kind of water, if you open that door or break a window, he's gone and you'll never get him. So imagine the training it takes to put 2 state troopers on top of that car in that kind of water. And that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of training and it's a lot of fancy gear. And we do that stuff all the time. And so, any kind of flood. So here's just some shots I took during training. I'm a big instructor in swiftwater. So here's just some cool shots. That's called a shallow water crossing, where they're all in the water trying to cross. We're doing boogie boarding. And so if you're familiar with Richmond and Hollywood Rapids, which is a Class 4, we go through Hollywood all the time on boogie boards, and and we're getting paid to do that. Don't tell anybody. So we go down on boogie boards, and we're going, oh, this is terrible. We're getting paid. See, and I hate talking like this because, people are watching and some people are listening and you're hearing me tell the truth, which I don't do very often. And so here's what's cool about the swiftwater that you didn't know is every time there's this major storm coming to Virginia, we're already out there. We're eyeballing where the storm's going to hit. And what we do with our team is we divide into smaller teams and we're there to meet the storm no matter where it is. How cool is that? So this is Isabel. This is what put us on the map. Isabel was coming and everybody was freaking. I was sitting there all excited going, oh man, this is going to be good. And so those little dots there is where I split up my team. We did over 23 real ones, but we actually did like 40 something rescues. Just one after another. And then what did we do? We chased the storm out of Virginia. That's what we did. We kicked it out of Virginia. Get out of here. But what happened was these communities all through Virginia, they don't have swiftwater teams. And here they are getting pounded by Isabel. And we're telling them, hey, we're right here. Where do you need us? Well, we got these people trapped in a car. Well, we'll be there in 5 minutes. They go, how'd you do that? We've been chasing it. We've been following it through Virginia. And so it was pretty cool. And it was so cool. The gymnasium in Richmond was set up as the EOC, which is the Emergency Operating Center. And President Bush flew in, and this is him inside our gymnasium, shaking hands. And one of my divers who did this cool rescue of a tractor and trailer driver got to shake his hands. I didn't get to do that. And my team didn't get to meet him because we were in Surrey camping out on the beach because a tidal wave came into Surrey and wiped out this community. And we were there originally looking for survivors, but everybody had managed to get out. So we stayed because looters were coming in at night to go through what was left of their homes and steal stuff. And so they go, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to camp out on the beach. We're going to wait for them. All I had was this giant dive boat, and they came in on these fast bass boats. I couldn't catch them, but I could stop them from landing. And they were, out in the water, they're yelling at me, and I said, come on in here, I dare you, They never landed, but we fought them. We fought them for a couple of nights, and then they finally got the hint. Don't come. And then they left. And it got boring, and so I left. So this is Isabel. This is another one. Isn't that a cool shot? So here's another big storm. We're down in 4th Division, which is Southwest Virginia. Community flooding. We went through hell with our boats in these rapids trying to get over to this house with this woman that was, she was on oxygen. She can't move, and we got to get her out of there because the water's rising in her house. How cool is that? And so we get her on the boat. And we got a paramedic with us, and we get her to dry ground and get her in an ambulance. So while I'm there, I get a call, and it says, hey, near you is a trailer park and the water's rising. These people are trapped in their trailer. And the problem with the trailer, if it gets too high, the trailer will start moving, and then it's not good at all. I mean, things can really go bad quick. So we get there to the trailer. So I wade through the water. I climb up on the deck, and I knock on the door. So it's like I'm visiting. So we're talking a serious situation, but I knock on the door. And I hear this little girl go, come in. So I open the door. Can you picture me doing this? This is the weird stuff I do. I think it's funny. And so I open the door and I go, who here wants to be rescued? And the parents are there, and this little boy's there, her brother and her dog. And she goes, me. I go, well, get over here, quit digging. So she comes over, and I put this life jacket on her. And so I pick her up. I said, get up here. And I said, I got to get you through that water. And she goes, sir, before we leave, you got to make me a promise. I said, what's that? She goes, don't get my curls wet. I just looked at her and went, I promise you, I will not get your curls wet. She goes, you promised? I go, I did. So I get her through the water, and then we got to dry ground. So this is a shot someone took. This is her mother, and that's the boy, and the dog's inside. We got pictures of, because we saved everybody and the dog. Isn't that cool? Imagine getting to do that kind of stuff. No, that's just, I just wanted to show you some stuff. The other thing we do is land SAR. So we do land search and rescue. So the man there on the ground, that's Francis. He's eating leaves. He's been gone for 3 days. And we ended up tracking him. And so I had what we'll do with my team if we have a lot of volunteers. My team is highly trained in land search and rescue. And we'll split up and take a volunteer team like you guys. So you guys will be my team. and then I'll take you aside and kind of show you some stuff, and then we'll go out on searches. So that's what was happening. I had all these volunteers with me, and we actually find Francis. So that's me here. So I sit down with Francis. I go, hey, Francis. He goes, hello. I said, Francis, you're eating leaves. I said, are you hungry? He goes, yes, please. I said, well, do you want crackers? Yes, please. I said, you want some water too? He goes, yes, please. I just sat there with, do you want to go home? He goes, yes, please. I said, well, let's go home. We got him out of there. So, I mean, imagine doing stuff like that. But sometimes you don't find them like that. You know, sometimes it's a little bit too late. So any of those searches are emergency. Another thing we do is tracking. So that's just me teaching some tracking. So we call it man tracking or SAR tracking. And so we do that. It's a big part of it where you're tracking. So this just happened. So what is today? Tuesday? Wednesday. So last Wednesday, I got the call at 10 o'clock at night, and Thursday, so like after midnight, I was on scene looking for this 4-year-old little boy. So this is the sheriff of Brunswick County, and this is little Thomas. Isn't he cute? So he's gone. He's somewhere in the woods somewhere he was with his dogs, but his dogs came back to the house. So he'd been gone since about 6 p.m. on Wednesday. So he's been in the woods for a while. So we went on some tasks looking for him. And then one of the big instructors and unbelievable trackers working for VDEM, he finds his footprint in this creek. And then my team happens to get a task to go help him. So we go to this creek, and the tracker marked his track. Can you see a little boy's footprint in there? Yeah. This is called a track. So as a tracker, you're looking for places that have soft mud and stuff that would capture a footprint or a partial print. And so you've got a couple of prints here, but this is a great print. And so we take measurements, and then the tracker went one way down the creek, and we went the other way up the creek. And so we searched for about a mile. We had no tracks, but then I picked up on a couple of tracks. All right. And my second in charge, I tell everybody, I said, I think I got a partial track. I think he's gone this way, and I think we're getting close. It is now about 5:30 in the morning. And so I told everybody, be on the alert. So my partner goes, Thomas, and we have our flashlights out, and we're shining ahead, and you see this kid, he's sleeping, and he sits up like this, and he goes, are you looking for me? And we said, yes. So we run up to him. So this is Rory, my number 2, and he was a little hypothermic. So Rory took off his shirt and put his shirt on him. And so I'm sitting next to him, and he looks at me, he goes, are you lost too? And I go, no, I know exactly where I'm at. I said, I've been looking for you. He goes, my dogs are lost. I go, no, your dogs are home. Everything's okay. So we carried him out of there. And then this is the group that was with me. And so these are my guys. This was just a normal trooper in that area. She wanted to go with us. So she put on some boots, and she did a great job. But these are all on my people. So this is Michaela, that's Rory, that's Kyle, that's Ken Joyner. And so this is where we're just about ready to pass him. The guy taking the picture is the sheriff. That's his shadow. So we're giving him over to the sheriff, and the sheriff ended up later on getting that picture of him. But isn't that cool? And so we got him, and he's just as cute as he can be. And so we're going to switch it. I didn't notice the S went down there, but I'm going to switch it to our biggest thing. I just want to kind of give you a taste of some of the stuff we do is underwater criminal investigation. There's 3 components when you look at recovery type of diving, especially for public safety. So one of them is body recovery. And, a lot of people just think it's body recovery, someone drowned, but, it could be murder. It could be, an accidental drowning, but it could be a drowning that was on purpose. Either it was a suicide, so they kill themselves by drowning, or someone kills you by drowning you. And a lot of people don't think about that, but that does happen. Parents will drown their kids. Husband will drown their wives. We've had where the wife drowns the husband. All you got to do if they can't swim well is push. So I'm not giving you any clues or any hints. Just that. Just remember, cry when they're interviewing you. So don't blow it. Don't blow it. So if you look at recovering a body, you've got what's called the grab and go method. You've got body bagging. There's a purpose for body bagging. There's a purpose for grabbing them and going. Usually for grab and go, you're down deep and you just want to get the heck out of there. Bagging them could kill you. At certain depths, certain conditions, you don't want to mess with it. You want to just, thank God I got him. Let me get out of here. And so you grab them and you go. Most of the time we bag. And the reason why we do that forensically, it's protecting them. It's sealing anything that's on the body, inside the body, just in case later on they go, we think it was something going on here. Well, we captured everything in that bag. And so the bag has to be brand new. You have to treat it a certain way. So those are the normal ways of doing it. But what if it's a cold case? What if it's badly decomposed? The body been down there for 10 years and now they're just finding out about it. Someone on their deathbed or someone confesses, hey, 10 years ago, I killed this guy. And now you're not looking for a body. You're looking for bones. You're looking for clothing. You're looking for shoes. And so how do you do that? We have a way of doing that. We have a method called the detailed grid system. What if they're weighted? What if they're, like in this picture here, they put the body in a rug and they rolled it up and duct taped it and chained it with center blocks. How do you do that? You don't undo everything. You don't underwater cut everything off and unroll the rug. You want to recover it exactly like you found it. So how do you do that? There's a method to do that. So you can imagine what the skill level has to be for the diver. The diver has to have some really, really good skills. So, he can do that without dying. And so it's a lot of training. The other, remember there's three. So that's the first component. The next one is vehicle recovery. So a vehicle could be accidental. The guy forgot to put the parking brake on. It could be stolen. It could be an insurance fraud. It could be a carjacking and there's bodies inside. It's just crazy, all the different categories. You could tow it with a tow truck. That's what's happening with this one. This was a insurance fraud. You can lift it with these big lift bags, so the divers can actually inflate those bags and bring the car up themselves, or the divers could rig to the car and the surface with air hoses could inflate the bags and bring it to the surface. So it just depends on the depth and the conditions, which method we're going to use. And so imagine the training involved in that and the equipment involved in that. And then you have evidence. And so evidence can be anything. It could be a murder weapon. It could be a purse. It could be a cell phone. It could be anything that relates to a crime. So this is just in the city of Richmond. We're diving the old Annabelle Lee to see what's there, what people have been throwing off the dock. Look what they've been throwing off the dock. 5 assault weapons. Those were stolen from a Chesterfield gun shop, and a bunch of handguns, artwork. Look, these are parking meters in Richmond. So imagine, I know you wanted to do that, but imagine the effort to take a pipe cutter. So you're at the parking meter looking around. Imagine how long it takes you to cut that pipe. Then you got to take that somewhere and pound it open, and you get your $3 worth of quarters. Here's a thought. Get a job. Look at what you could have been getting paid hourly. You know, get a job, you know, a money box. I mean, my goodness, it's everywhere. Every bridge you cross, there's stuff off that bridge. Tomorrow, the murder weapon was thrown off a bridge. If the bridges are our #1 spots, because they don't even have to slow down. They just roll down the window. Flick of a wrist, it's gone. So it's pretty cool. So how do you find where, you know, that thing you're looking for is? There's resources. So one is the suspect, the guy that actually did the crimes. This guy, you know, killed a bunch of people. That's me with brown hair, interviewing him. This is in Fredericksburg. And so we're talking to him about the murder weapon. And so he killed, on this case here, he killed 2 people, but he killed more. And just on this case, there was 2 murdered. And we ended up getting them, and we ended up recovering the murder weapon. So ideally, you're going to get the bad guy or the guy that threw it in. That's who you want, is the guy that, you know, knows exactly where it's at. But sometimes that guy is not talking. So then you go with the accomplice. The accomplice might be driving the car. You know, he didn't do the crime, but he drove the car and stopped on the bridge while the other guy threw it off. So the bad guy's not talking, but this guy talks. And so if the bad guy's not talking, you go to that guy and say, tell me everything you know. And then he takes you to the bridge. So that's your second choice. Now, it might not be a crime. It might be just a drowning and there's a witness. So you talk to the witness. A lot of the witnesses are involved in it, which means that might be their child. It might be their husband, and they're all emotional. And somehow you've got to dig through that to try to get to where you're supposed to go. And so there's ways of talking to witnesses to get the information. And then there's search patterns. So search patterns are like tools in a toolbox. You have to know a variety of different patterns. They all have their own purpose. And so a very common one's called an arc search, or some teams call it a fan pattern. And that's a line tender holding the line, and it goes down to a diver who's holding on to the rope, and he's simply making an arc in front of that diver from shore. Every time he makes an arc, the tender lets out a little bit of rope, and then the diver goes back, and his search area just keeps moving out until he finds the target or he clears that area. So that's called an arc search. Then you have circle searches, and circle searches are away from shore. It's sort of like an arc, but the tender is going down with you. So that tender there in the middle, he's actually diving, and the diver just simply goes around him. Now, there's a way of doing that. You don't want to be lassoed and wrapped with that search line. So there's a way you have to teach these people how to do that. And very, very good pattern if you know what you're doing. Then, believe it or not, we use compass searches, because there's some places you go to Philpott Lake or Smith Mountain Lake, there's still trees everywhere. So you can't lay down ropes. You can't work with a rope system. Nothing works. So you just have to do the best you can. And so if you're good with a compass, that's what we do. So I found many cars and a few bodies just working it with compass because nothing was working for me with a line. And so to use that effectively, you got to know what you're doing. Like we teach the PADI navigation course and, you know, all that stuff, the, you know, search and recovery course, along with a lot more, but just to make sure that they're good at it. And then the big pattern, the mother of all patterns, is called the jack stay. And that's the one for a good police dive team. That needs to be your #1 pattern, because it's a moving grid line. And a grid line is the most accurate pattern on anything. I mean, you put 2 divers down on that grid. So let's say this diver is the lead diver. He's the diver on the side of the pattern, and the pattern's being moved this way. So he's the leader, or the what's called the primary. This guy would be called the backup. And so that pattern will give you a 99% chance of finding the target. And the reason it does that, and the way it does that, is when the pattern is moved, this diver researches what that diver searched. So you're searching the same area over and over again before you completely get out of there. So your odds of finding it greatly increase. So that's the pattern that any big police team uses. That's the big one. And that's what we'll be using tomorrow. Tomorrow off that bridge, we'll have like 4 jacks working together. So we'll have one near this shore, a couple in the middle, and all these teams working those jacks together. That's how we'll do it. What's that?
I was wondering, how do you keep track of the places you've already searched?
A lot of ways. One, like on an arc search, you just keep track of how much line you let out and from where the tender was standing. With a jack stay, we just kind of know it always goes up underneath that bridge 3 to 5 feet. So we know we started up underneath the bridge, and we have a 50-foot search line. So we know how long the search line is, and we just keep track of where that pattern's gone. So a lot of it is just eyeballing where we're at.
I was wondering how accurate do you have to be for court appearances later for
Not for the pattern, for where we found it. So I'll go over that. So when we found it, we got to do a lot of stuff. So this is getting into that. So what do we do? Yes, sir. That's in your favorite Lake Phoenix. That was for a photo shoot.
So what percentage of the time would you get that?
Never. That's why I went to Lake Phoenix for my photo shoot. If I took pictures of our guys doing something, it would just be a black. That's him with the gun. It's like, what? I don't see anything. Most of the time we can't take pictures because there's nothing. It's just black. You can strobe it all you want. There's nothing coming. Nothing's going to be seen. So that's kind of normal. We just can't take. If we can take pictures, we will, but usually we can't. And so this is what we have to do because it's criminal in nature. So once you find it, so picture this: the diver just found that sawed-off shotgun. So am I excited because we found the murder weapon? Yes. Don't get too excited. Why? Because, there's stuff on that shotgun. It could have the guy's fingerprints. It could have DNA. It could have all kinds of stuff. So here's the trick. Finding the gun is hard enough, but can you find the gun and not wipe off a print? That's where that's where you're really good. So how do you get that good? You train yourself. Like if it's this mic, so let's say this microphone, I'll probably make some noise here, but let's say this is the gun. So the gun's laying there in zero viz. For me to find that gun, do I have to touch it? Yes. I got to touch it to know it's a gun. So the question is, how much touchy do I do? So I go like this. Man, that feels like a gun. It does feel like a gun. There's a trigger. There's some sights. You see, that's what people, what are you doing? So the trick is the moment your brain says gun, you stop touching it. See, that's where you need to be in your recovery. Why you got to be that weird? Because you're after everything else. You got the gun, but do you have his prints? See, and all that touchy-feely is what's doing damage to it. So then you get into this position. So this position is called a centerline position. So the diver gets negative. So imagine this is zero viz. He gets in the center position with the target. That could be a body. It's directly in front of him. Even though now he can't see it, as long as he doesn't move, he knows it's there. See, that's what's important. Because if I just go over here, what do I got to do to get back to the gun? I got to feel it again. See, so you train them at this level that kind of really hones in, where they need to be on the recovery side. Then you take out a marker buoy. There's methods of doing that. You mark the target, you release it, it goes to the surface. If you can, you're going to get photographs. So you got a gun, that's not a real body. If you look at the photos in the new advanced PADI PSD course, that's a 15-year-old. Well, now she's 25-year-old old. This was when she was 15 years old. She was a PADI diver and she was one of my models underwater. So if you look at the pictures, I got dead people in the car. And then they can't hold their breath and they grab the pony bottle. They take pictures, or they suck some air And then they look at me and they go, okay. And then I have to wait till the bubbles disappear. And then I take pictures of this dead guy in the car. And so that's what she was. She was this dead person, and pretty cool. So if I could, I would take pictures like that. A lot of times, you know, I can't. But if you can, because it's crime scene, you got to try to get some photographs. And then you're going to triangulate that marker buoy. So this is going to go on a crime scene sketch. Since we're criminal investigators, but we specialize underwater, you know, we got to treat it like a crime scene. So we have to document, photograph, you know, mark it, you know, do all that sketching stuff. And we got to do a lot of stuff. So we got to triangulate it. And then we got to document everything. And so with our documentations, there's dive reports, which are criminal investigative reports. There's crime scene sketches. There's body recovery worksheets. There's vehicle recovery worksheets. You know, there's dive master worksheets. There's all this documentation that's required. So it's a lot of work that goes into just one case. Just tomorrow, searching for it, there's going to be a lot of documentation. If we find it or not, there's a lot of documentation showing what we did. And then packaging it. And so look at this picture of this shotgun going. Now, this is just a setup shot for a book. And think about a gun going in a pipe or a knife going in a pipe. So we use PVC pipes as evidence containers. The truth is there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. So the right way of doing it is you put the danger side of the weapon in the pipe first. So the safe side of the weapon, if there is one, would be when the laboratory unscrews that lid, he doesn't want to be looking at both barrels. How do I know that? See, I'm actually pretty smart. I'm brilliant. It's because I'm dumb as a rock, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I had a guy call me. I didn't know. I'm like 23 years old. Nobody knew. I just found a double barrel shotgun and I stuck it in a pipe. But then I had somebody educate me, not very politely. I never forgot. Then I started teaching others my vast knowledge. But I tell them the truth about this story when I got my butt chewed out by a lab technician. You know, you didn't think about it, but when you think about his side, you're like, you know, that makes perfect sense. I never thought about that, but I wouldn't want to be looking at both barrels, even though you made it safe, because we have to make it safe if we can. They don't want to hear that. You know, they're thinking, you know, you could have blew their head off. So there's a way of packaging stuff.
How do you make it safe without?
What we'll do to maintaining the chain of custody, if it can be made safe, we'll do it out of the water. So, and that's perfectly legal. You just, you know, so you can reach back in the pipe and get it out and break it down. You can do that as long as you don't pass it to all these other people to do it, because then you got issues. You have to maintain control. So it's, and that's where you always make a weapon safe, is out of the water. Because if I had a semi-automatic underwater and I pulled back the slide and the round came out, in zero vis, I'm not going to find that round. It's going to be hard. So you got to do that out of water. And then everything goes in your evidence container. So the round, the magazine, the gun, everything would go in there together. So the firearms guy at the lab would process, and he's got everything in that same container. So ideally for chain of custody, you've got the diver that found it, that packaged it, he controls it. And then he swims over and he gets out of the water and he gives it to the land. And that's the ideal way of doing it, because you have two links in the chain. Now you can have more links, but you have to document the link. And then when it comes to court, all of those links have to go to court, because the defense attorney is going to try to find what? The weak link. You know, so you were the one that found it. Yes. And then you packaged it. Yes. What'd you package it in? Packaged it in a PVC pipe. Did Mike Berry say danger side in first? Yes, he did. Did you make it safe? Yes, I did. Okay, so you're pretty good at it. Yes, I am. Well, then what did you do with it? I gave it to Joe. Oh, is Joe here in court? Well, no. Well, who's Joe? He was the guy on the boat. So what did Joe do with it? He gave it to the investigator. Did you see him give it to the investigator? No, I was in the water. So isn't it possible that Joe unscrewed that and put another gun inside? He wouldn't do that. Yeah, but you didn't see it. See how tricky it is? So on the diver end, you better be thinking about it, because that court case is like a year away or 2 years away. So you better be thinking about it now. And so that's where all that training comes into play. All right, putting it together. So we're just going to blacken this out. I'm sorry for you guys watching online, because I'm going to show some pictures I don't really want recorded. It's not that bad, but just to play safe, be safe. All right, we're good. All right, so you get all this training, you get all this dive gear, and you're trying to put it together. So here's a case. All right, look at the pictures on, do you remember this case? This made national news. This guy killed this girl. Little like, I think she's 13 years old. So he liked having sex with little people and killed her. All right, and so this girl didn't help in the killing, but knew things. All right. And so I get a call to go to Virginia Tech. And I've been there a number of times. So I was there during the massacre. Remember, all the kids got murdered. So I went there and dove the duck pond. And we were looking for some evidence in that case. And so when they said, we need you to go back to Virginia Tech, I was like, oh, no, not the duck pond. Because the duck pond is called the duck pond because of the duck poop. And so, it's a giant pond filled with duck poop. And so your worst nightmare is they go search the duck pond. It's like a lake. And you're like, where do I go? Well, I don't know. It's like, oh my God, how do I do that? And so I said, is it the duck pond? They go, no, it's this other pond. I go, what pond? Oh, they made it since that, homicide. And so what am I looking for? I'm looking for a cell phone. And so I'm the cell phone of the victim. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So when I first started talking about this case, every picture you're seeing was on the news. I asked the department if I could talk about the case because it hadn't gone to court. The department says you can talk about it, but you can't use any of your own photographs. It has to be photographs you took off the internet. And you can't tell them what you found until the case is over with. I said, okay. So I took these pictures off the internet and I could talk about it, but I couldn't tell anybody at first until after the case. So I'm going to talk about it. All right. So that's what these pictures were. And I didn't have brown hair, so I still was old. But you see, I still dive. I still, know how to blow bubbles. So here's the pond. So he lures her to a location and he kills her. It's because she's kind of getting too much in love. There could be something going on in her body that he doesn't like. Whatever, he kills her. And he comes back to the parking area, and through their investigation, that other girl who's kind of participating in different ways says he threw the cell phone in the pond. All right. So I talked to the investigators and they said, listen, there's only one section of the pond we want searched. I said, is that where he threw it? Well, this is where we think he threw it. Because when you go to the pond at night, the pond is lit up like a Christmas tree. And there's only one dark section of the pond. And so we walk there and I see, they go, this is the section. And they said, all this is lit up except this section. And he came at night. So we think he would stay in the shadows and then throw it where nobody could see him. And I said, okay. And so we search that section. Now, do we do an arc search for a cell phone? Do we do a circle search for a cell phone? Do we do a compass search for a cell phone? Or do we do a jack stay for a cell phone? We do. Is it a one-man jack or a two-man jack? It's a two-man jack. So we grid it off and we don't find. Now we do test throws. How far can you throw a cell phone? And it was basically all the way across if you threw it as hard as you can. And so we searched the whole area. Now, I'm not highlighting all the area, but because a lot of it was shallow. So we still gridded it off, but we either, were on snorkel gear, or if it was real shallow, we stood up with detectors, underwater detectors, and we had other divers, when we got a hit, they would go down and see what that was. So all of that you see, all this was gridded off. Well, then what if he didn't throw it straight across? He threw it at an angle where the light was. We gridded it off. As far as you could throw a cell phone, nothing. And they are positive that it's in the pond. Now, with my guys' training, with the selection of the pattern and the method we're working the pattern, do I think for a second that we missed it? Nope. Never enters my body or in my mind. I never think that. I go, it's got to be somewhere else. All right. So it's got to be somewhere else in this pond if they know for sure it's in the pond. All right. So I'm in a hotel down the road. We've been there for a week. This ain't like a couple hours. This is day after day after day after day. And I'm awake at like 3 a.m. and I'm thinking about where in the world this cell phone is. So I get dressed and I drive down there, because remember, they said it's lit up like a Christmas tree all night long. And I go down there. I got down there about 4 a.m. and it wasn't. Now this is what happened that's a classroom at Virginia Tech. During classroom at night, the students are still there. It's lit up like a Christmas tree. But eventually people go home. And what do? They turn off the lights. See, no one went down there to take a look at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm there at 4 o'clock in the morning. And there's one street light. And the whole pond is dark, except that one little bitty corner. All right, now, there's about a foot of snow. He's wearing sneakers. Would he walk through the snow to get to the pond, or would he just keep walking down that road, which was clear? So I'm sitting there going, he walked down that road until he could get to the pond. All right, so he walked down to the road somewhere in this area is what I'm betting. Now, if you look at these trees, like all these trees, if you were standing on this road, it's just a glob of trees, and that I would have to try to throw that cell phone through the trees. But if you look at these two areas, it's like field goals. And there's this big opening. And I said, it's right here. He stood right here. The pond is like a few feet away, and he went, "Where?" So I waited for all the divers and investigators to show up. And I told them what happened and where the light is, and told them nobody came down here, in the middle of the night. And so we set up 2 jack stays and we overlapped them. And we worked towards shore. So we did test throws. How far can you throw a cell phone? We set up our grid line beyond that, and we worked our way into shore. Now, one reason for that, there's 2 big reasons, but one reason is as I'm moving the pattern, it's coming back toward my dive. It's coming closer to us. So at the end of the dive, we don't have to swim way out there and get it. But it also usually starts your deepest dive first, and you're moving into shallower water. So that's your basic, physics. So we're starting the deeper one coming into shallower water. So we start working on these jacks and bam, book them, Dano. And so up comes the buoy. Out comes triangulation, photographs. The diver that finds it, packages it, these are cans. They look, it's like a paint can, but they are used every day all over the world as evidence containers. Just an empty, brand new can, has the same kind of lid and everything. So got pictures of that. The diver walks in, that's the land investigator. He gets custody of it. He lays it out, starts taking pictures, and I'm right in his ear. I'm talking about digital evidence, how there still could be digital evidence. There could be DNA, touch DNA on it. I'm talking about fingerprints. And I'm doing it very gently, very tactfully, because a lot of these land investigators don't have any training in evidence in the water. So I'm right there trying to steer him in the right direction. And then this picture was taken about a year later. This is when they announced sentence. That was her face that they took that shot when they announced how many years she got for participating. And so is there a reason to do it right? Is there a reason to have really serious training and the right gear, the right people? There is, because what we do is very serious. You know, with, you know, from rescuing Thomas to helping bring justice to, you know, an innocent little girl's murder. You know, you don't want to blow it. You don't want to miss it. You know, if it's there, you want to contribute. So you've got to really, really take it serious. And so I hope in the last few minutes, you've learned something and you had a good time. Any questions? What? I thought I was out of here. Yes, sir. Oh, good one. The salt is like an acid. And so it has a different chemical reaction. So if it's in salt, you have to be real quick about it. Your land investigators can't wait because, you know, in freshwater, it'll last for a long time. And it doesn't, I mean, it looks brand new. Saltwater, it's instantly getting ate up because of the salt. It's like an acid, and it just starts eating away at the metal. And so if you find something in salt, you don't want to package it in salt. You want to get it out of the salt. You want to flush it. And there's a way of doing that. And then you want to package it in fresh water. And the reason why we package things wet, especially metal things, is you're trying to stop oxidation. So you're trying to prevent it from rusting further. So when it gets to the lab, they can do a firearms exam. And so you want to get it out of the salt as soon as possible. Anything else in fresh water, you want to package it in the water you found it in, because you don't want to change the pH level up against that metal. You want to just keep it in the same water so you're not disturbing any chemical influences it might have on it.
Mentioned the fireworks exam. What does that do with the ability to do ballistics?
Oh, I'm telling you, we're successful all the time. Yeah, they can tell us. What's cool is you can tell if that's the murder weapon, but if if you're lucked out with fingerprints, they got the killer's fingerprints on the murder weapon. You know, they got everything. You know, and all of a sudden he wants to make a deal because you got everything you ever wanted. You know, and then he wants to change his tune. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've developed lifting techniques and every kind of packaging technique, body lifting technique, advanced decomposition methods. So all that's just been developed over the years from trial and error. That's all it is, when I'm a young person and they have a badly decomposed body, nobody knew how to do that. And I had to figure it out, by making mistakes. And then I'd go, that didn't work too well. And then just over the years, you get it down to a science where, and you kind of worked out all the kinks. And then everybody goes, how did you do that? Well, I didn't do it overnight. It was a lot of mistakes and a lot of dives trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So it's the same thing with lifting.
Swiftwater recipes.
Yeah, Swift Water. Now, I don't really invent anything there because that's been really designed by some companies out there that are just unbelievable. Whitewater, that's where it came from, was the Whitewater guys. And so they just kind of developed it into how to get a guy off the top of his car, he's stuck in a strainer. How do you do that? So a lot of it came from Swiftwater, and then these companies developed, and then we started taking their courses and learning from different companies. And then the state of Virginia has created their own Swiftwater company, but it's really all the same techniques that are standardized around the country. So, we're basically, whatever company you take, you're basically getting the same training. Sort of the same with land SARG for the most part. It's the diving part. You see different ways of doing different things. That really hasn't been standardized, except the police stuff has basically been standardized worldwide through my group. But what? Yeah, we have standards that we follow. So you find a murder weapon, we have standards that you're supposed to follow, that are accepted by the courts to get it accepted in the court as a piece of evidence. If you don't do it that way, you're just throwing it away. Yes, sir. I'll work my way over to you girls. Mike.
Local jurisdiction, say like a county, search and rescue.
Yeah.
You guys have a hand in training their people.
Yeah. So I have a company on the side. I don't really want to talk a lot about it, but it's really big. It's global. I've got instructors, but from the state, you can call me, and I'll give you an example. Henrico Fire called and said, hey, can you come and show us some stuff? Absolutely. Because see, I can do whatever I want to do every day. So I look at my calendar, I go, I'm free on Tuesday. And that's how we do it. And we go there and just show them stuff. And we try to all work together. And so my method of managing the team is we don't take we're not there to get the credit. I don't want to be on the news. I just want to help you. And so you can be on the news. The sheriff can be on the news. I just want to help you. I've had teams say, hey, Mike, we got a drowning. We can't find him. Can you come? I say, yes. Can you wear civilian clothes? I go, yeah. Is your truck marked? I go, no. Can you bring an unmarked boat? I go, yeah. Okay, you can come. I go, okay. So then I'll find the body. And they'll go, so that's the body? I go, yeah, I put that marker right on him. So you're sure that's him? I go, yeah, I'm sure that's him. Okay, you can go. I go, okay. So the next day in the paper, it says such and such a dive team after 3 days of searching found the body. Never mentioned me. But see, I'm used to that. But see, because they know how I am, I don't care. That's when they'll call you because they trust you. And a lot of them want to do the dive themselves. I mean, I honestly have no idea how many bodies I've recovered. It's in the hundreds with a S. So do I need to go do another one? No. But will I? Of course. But they want to do it. And they need the experience. So they'll just want me to find it. And then they want to go do it. I go do it. I don't care. Sometimes they'll go, well, can you help us? I go, yeah, I'll help you. Can you go down with me? Yeah, I'll go down with that. So it doesn't matter. So it's just trust. That's what it is. It's just trust. And you want to get called because I don't make up the call. I want someone to call me, and they're going to call you if they trust you and know that you can help them and you're going to be nice about it. And so I try to train my team members to be the same way. Be humble about it. Don't walk around like a peacock and think you're better than everybody. That's stupid. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever worked with any of the water training diver dogs?
Yep. I've trained, not to train them how to do that, but they come, I do a big thing on body movement, the physics and the science, and I train them in that. And then we take them out on our boats, and then they have ways of developing gases, fake gases, and we take them out on the boats. They get on all our different size boats, so the dogs can get used to that. We did one about a year ago. And then I'm doing a land SAR training at the end of this month for some of our riot troopers. There's like 120 riot troopers that I'm going to it's just a few hours of what to do on a land search, but I'm bringing in the canine to give a talk to those people so they'll get educated on how to use it. Yep. You know, I don't really do a lot of that. So this is my story. You know, I became a diver a long time ago. So my dive watch is 48 years old. So that was my first loan. I was 18 in the Army. That's my first loan. So I became a diver first through a company called NASDS. I don't think they're around anymore. And then when I joined the state, I became PADI, and I really liked the PADI program. I became a PADI instructor like in '86. I took over the team the same year. I started developing all this stuff. People started asking me to show them what I was doing with the state. With that, I wrote a lesson plan. With that, I wrote a book. With that, I wrote I created a company. Back in '87, I opened up a dive store in Fredericksburg called Fredericksburg Diving Center. And I started teaching at the colleges, and I took trips everywhere. I used to do a well-known trip called the Florida Trip from Hell. So that's how I advertised it in the paper. Florida Trip from Hell. Call Mike at this number. You know, people are like, what is that? But I basically in a week did everything Florida had to offer, nonstop. So we drove straight nonstop to the West Coast to a place called Port Paradise. I don't even know if that's still there, but I think it is. Port Paradise. We got there at night. We checked in. When the sun come up and everybody was waking up, they realized they were right on the water of Crystal River. And so Crystal River, you can go cavern diving and manatees. And back in those days, you could actually dive with the manatees. See, now you got a snorkel. So when we woke up, we would rent a John boat. You would rent a John boat at the dive shop, and it's early morning, and we'd go out on the water and wait for the manatees to surface. And then we'd sneak over there and then slip in with scuba gear into the water, and we would feed the manatees and pet the manatees. And then I would take them into King Spring. Have you ever been to King Spring? King Spring, which is like 50 foot. I think it's 50-foot depth or something like that, but you go way in. It's a cavern, so you can come back real safe. So by lunch, we're eating lunch and we're in the car driving. See, so that's the first thing. So then we would go to we were going to Key Largo, but I stopped at the Everglades and we would canoe the Everglades. And so we rent these canoes, and I canoe the Everglades, guaranteeing them we'll see alligators. So now they dove with the manatees, went spring diving, and they canoed in the Everglades, and I would take pictures of them with the alligators. Then by nighttime, we'd get to Key Largo, and you older farts in here, Slates, Captain Slate. Remember the old Skin Diver magazine? He's got a fish in his mouth and a barracuda's taking it out of his mouth. Well, that's who I used to dive with, is Captain Slate. So in the morning, the next day, we would get on the dive boat and we'd go to the Dwayne and the Bib, which are the Coast Guard cutters. And then we'd come into Pennycamp Park so they can say they dove with Pennycamp Park. We get back by lunchtime, eat lunch, and then we head to Key West. So we go to Key West, and we got to get there before what? The sun sets. So we get to Key West and we get 2-hour parking. So you go to the meter, put coins in it for 2 hours. So we go to Boar's Head Inn, without the cutter. And so we go to the Boar's Head Inn, which is the oldest bar, drink a beer, put a card, I think you put a card or $1, something on the wall, but it's like you can't even see the walls anymore. This is the oldest bar. And then we go to Sloppy Joe's, which is Hemingway's bar. and we drink a beer and tape the wait. I don't know if she still does this, but you tip the waitress so much, she rings the bell. So I said, we got to get her to ring the bell. So we give her this big tip. We would see the sunset, entertainers, the tightrope walkers watch the sunset, and we run to the cars before they tow us. We get back in the car and take off. And we go to Big Pine Key and camp out. And we wake up in the morning and the pine deer are, the key deer are in the campsite. So we wake up and there's all these little miniature deer and we would feed the deer. And then I'd say, let's go. And we head up to West Palm Beach. And that was the first time they showered and was back in a hotel room. And the next morning, we're drift diving at West Palm Beach. And they used to have, well, they still have this big wreck, but another old one was the rich guy donated a Rolls Royce that made the cover of Skin Diver magazine. And they put the Rolls Royce right in front of this shipwreck. So I would show everybody the magazine and say, that's where we're diving. But it didn't look like that anymore. You know, it was a brand new Rolls Royce when they took the picture. Well, now it's just a big chunk of rust. So it's like 80 or 90 feet. I mean, it's some serious drift diving. So we do drift diving and, you know, the boat chases you. We get out of the water, we come back and we nonstop. We start driving back to Virginia. I did that trip for years. And everybody would go, I know why you call it the Florida trip from hell. I go, but did you have a good time? They go, oh my gosh. When are you going again? Was that?
Totally unrelated to diving, but.
Yes, yeah. He's
been around that long.
He's been around for a while.
2025, Tim.
So anyway, you know, I've been everywhere I dove and I started getting bored. So if I go down on a wreck and I can see like forever, I'm like, oh my God. You know, all the fish are coming up. I get out of here. You know, moray, yeah. One time after the anthrax case, the FBI sent me to, this is how they died. They sent me to St. Martin. And so I went to St. Martin with the FBI dive team. And they were going, I had to teach some things. And they said, hey, we're going to go on a wreck dive. Do you want to go, Mike? I go, no, I don't want to go. Come on, Mike. We want you to go. I go, no, you know, I've done this so many times, I get bored. Yeah, but we've never been. I go, you haven't? And they go, no. I said, well, I'll lead you and show you some stuff. And so now I had something to do. And they go, okay. So I went down there and I was grabbing the moray and petting them. And they're like, oh my God, and they're going to kill you, you know. But I've done it a million times. And the last time I was in Florida, I was teaching a big UCI class, you know, and the guys was like, hey, the class get together. We're going to go on this wreck. I go, nah, just leave me alone. And they go, no, we want you to go. I said, I don't really want to go. I said, I get bored. And they go, yeah, but they said that you could kill lionfish. I went, what? So you can kill lionfish? They go, yeah. See, because back in the day, you couldn't kill lionfish. I used to take the students down on the reef, you know, because they were crowded back then. And I'd take my hand and you know how the lionfish are. They see you coming and they go, all right. You know, one day I'm going to kill you. And so now you can, you know, kill them. And they would eat them. And so I had something to do. And so if you lose your watch or a goodie bag, you might get me to go because I have something to do. So that's really my fun dive is really searching for stuff. Honest to goodness, when I'm off, I take my kayak, which is designed for scuba diving. Now I'm off and I'll kayak in the James River up to a bridge while I'm off and I'll go look for guns. And they go, you do that when you're off? I go, yeah, I'm bored. You know, when I find a gun, I'm like a little kid. I go, oh, I got a gun. Do you know how many? Oh my God.
How is your kayak rigged?
It has in the stern of it, it has this well where the tank just fits in there perfectly. It's curved for a tank. And so if you rig it all, it just kind of sits there. And then if you notice those pictures, I have carabiners, so I'll clip in my mast so it doesn't go overboard, my fins, you know, my weight belt's hooked in there. No, I just get in it, you know, carefully. And I don't have to go real far, but I usually tie it off. And then in the shallows, I'll put everything on and then go see what kind of treasure I can find. long as I have something to do. So you can see how weird I am. So I dive a lot. Let's just say I do that all the time. I'm teaching all the time. I'm doing stuff with the state all the time, and I'm doing stuff on my own all the time. But just going diving to see stuff, I get really, really bored. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Most of the fishes you have single tanks.
Yep.
Typically drive.
Yep. Single 80 is the way we dive. And the reason why we do that, I didn't tell you my whole life story. I've been contaminated a bunch of times, almost died several times from contamination. I've also been bent several times because I used to do some serious, insane stuff. And the worst I got bent, I actually had to be treated at Duke University. And so that was with a steel 120, and it was my second dive of the day. And I've been cutting the edge, and sure enough, I ended up getting bent. And so all my guys wanted to get these bigger tanks. And I said, an 80 will keep us safe. You can only go so long on an 80, and then you got to come up. And so we just stayed with 80s, and everybody's happy because the state guys are issued 3 tanks. And so, when they burn a tank, they can go get another tank. But see, it stops them. It gets them out of the water. See, and they, and if they get out of the water, I can say, hey, why don't you get something to drink and sit down for a second? Rather than, all these teams are diving with these high pressure, big bottles. And, I'm like, I could get you in trouble because I've gotten in trouble before, so I've done some weird, dangerous stuff, almost died many times. The deepest I ran out of air is at 90 feet. I did an out of air emergency at 90 feet. That was in Smith Mountain Lake. I was tied up with search rope. And so I was wrapped up in all this rope. I wiggled myself free, and then I got back to my up and down line. I was at like 110 feet. And on the bottom, when you're moving on the bottom, you got a muck cloud. So you can't see anything, even if you had a little viz. So what we do is we'd stand up above the muck cloud to see the glow of the gauges. And I looked down at my pressure gauge, and it was almost completely on E. I went, oh my gosh. So I knew I was going to run out of air. So I just took off because I wanted to be as shallow as possible. And it went to nothing at 90. I went, oh my gosh. And when that happens, you've got to get a hold of that moment. You better not freak out and start crying like a little girl, sissy baby. You better get a hold. No, I didn't mean any offense by saying girl. I say that to my guys all the time. You're a little sissy baby. And so you've got to get a hold of that moment because, the clock is ticking. You better get your butt to the surface. And so I did. And you know what I did? I did exactly what I was trying to do. And I made it to the surface. And I waited. When I exploded to the surface, I just laid there and went, wait a minute. Let me see if I'm going to die real quick. Because everybody jumped in to help me. I go, don't touch me. Let me just see if I'm going to, if I'm going to pass out or something.
So you guys don't dive with buddies? That's not a thing?
We do, but this was zero viz.
Okay.
And
so there's nobody to see you.
there was nobody there. And I found out later that he was already up going, where's Mike? Mike was wrapped up in rope. And so now we do. See, now things have changed. Now we've got full face masks. We have communications. We've got all kinds of stuff. And so, speaking on girls, I have 2 kick butt girls on the team. All of them kind of, you look at the entire team, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Even the guys, we got some guys that are legendary. We get some guys, I go, yeah, come on, if it's something serious, I go, not him, let's pick him, So you can train them, till you're, black and blue. They are what they are. It's like all divers, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. They have their fears, and you try to overcome their fears, but they still have their fears. And the secret to be really, really, really good at this is to be a really, really good diver. And it starts with that open water class. That's your basic skills class. So your instructors can't half-ass that. They got to really give you time to master those skills, like the standards say. Master those scuba skills, master clearing a mask, master those skills. And the other thing that you see with a lot of recreational guys is, you know, I'd rather train my divers from open water. So if you're a dive master and you come to me, you think that you've got to step up on everybody else. You actually have two steps below, because you have so many bad habits that I have to kill. And so a recreational diver is the hardest person to really train into a beast down there, because they were trained not to wear hoods. They were trained to, when they get out, they take off their, as soon as they come up to the surface, they take off their mask. What are you doing? You know, don't dive with gloves. You know, they dive, you know, 100-foot visibility. And then if it goes to 20 foot, they go, I want to get out. Well, it's 0 where I go. And so it's hard to get a recreational guy and convert him into this beast underwater, but it's easy to take someone that knows nothing. And all he knows is what I taught him. All he knows. So from day one, they're in full exposure protection, hoods and gloves. And then we start out with a half mask, a normal mask, and they can't take their mask off unless I give them permission. Why is that? I need that to become their normal. I need the hood to be normal to them. I need the gloves to be normal. If they're not wearing gloves, they're freaking out. If they're not wearing a hood, it's like, what? Something's wrong. I don't have my hood. See, I need that to be normal. I need the mask to be on their face to be normal. See, because eventually I'm gonna put them in a full face mask. Eventually I'm gonna put them in a dry suit. You know, eventually I'm gonna have a pony bottle. Eventually I got all these other hoses. See, I got to get them up to that level. So that first step, that open water step, is crucial to, you know, working out the kinks and killing all the weaknesses the person has. So think about where you're at and what monsters you have. You know, what weaknesses do you have in scuba diving? You know, what skill did you never master? And the question is, what are you doing with that? Are you just running from it? You know, or have you worked on it to master that skill? Because it makes you a better diver, a more comfortable diver when you're underwater. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you. Officer Wyatt from your team was instrumental in getting me into diving. I'm online, sorry.
Can you see me? I'm like, where's that coming from? I forgot about you guys. So is that how you started?
I was at a family function and he was telling me he was a diver with the state team with you guys, and I was like, hey, I might want to try that. And that's how I ended up at Dive Connection getting my open water certification.
Cool. You guys like Dive Connection?
It's better than the dive shop.
I'm glad I'm not being recorded. So, yeah, let me tell you, you guys are blessed. They've been around for a while, but look at you guys together. This is unreal. You know, it's like a little family. You know, and there's more of you out there somewhere. You know, there's these voices I keep hearing. You know, but what a blessing. Isn't it fun? I mean, you know, diving in general just changes your life. That's a good way to look at it. It changes your life. You know, instead of laying on the beach, you know, go on vacation, you're out on that water on an adventure. How cool is that? And that's what I do. I go on adventures every day. Tomorrow I'm going on an adventure. That's how I look at it. I'm going on an adventure. See what we can find. Any other questions? All right. God bless everybody.